All right, let's get started for the sake of time. We do have a few front row seats for any brave souls. We're trying to find a spot. Well, thank you everyone. I'm really excited for you all to be here with this amazing panel that we have today. My name is Cassandra Reed Van Dam. I am the Essential Education Experience Manager. I am filling in for Val Ganyu as the moderator for this panel today. She's out sick, unfortunately. But I first wanted to start off with just a grounding of why we are having a panel of community leaders and community partners at the Essential Ed Symposium. So Essential Ed has a new type of course called Experiences, or E3s for Essential Education Experience. And these courses are really meant to prepare our students to live and work in a diverse and ever-changing world by providing them opportunities for hands-on experiences working with society, working with community partners. So some of these courses might be something like a study away or study abroad program. You might be working with a campus partner, but quite a few of them will be working with our local and regional community partners. And a huge focus of these classes will be about stakeholder engagement, best practices for working with community members. And so we wanted today to hear from our community partners about what those practices look like, right? How, as faculty and staff, can we build those relationships so that we can create courses that provide our students with that framework, and so that as staff and faculty, we are reflecting the same best practices that we want to show our students. I will do a very brief rundown of who our panelists are, and then I'll hand it over to them to introduce themselves. So we have Jill Fisher, who is the program manager for the Keweenaw Land Trust. We have Melissa Mackey, who is the vice president and co-founder of 31 Backpacks. Megan Jasak, who is the community health educator at Copper Shores Community Health Foundation. Austin Ayers, who is the outreach coordinator for the KBIC Natural Resources Department, as well as the KBIC Tribal Council treasurer. We have Rachel Presley, who is the senior regional planner. Is that the correct title still? Maybe, okay. For the Western UP Planning and Development Region, or WUPITR. And finally, we have Beth Squires, who is the middle school and high school science teacher at Chassell Township Schools. So with that, I will start off with Jill to kind of give an introduction of yourself and some partnerships that you've had.
Do I need to use that one?
Yes, use
Use this. All right.
And you can pick it up too.
Is this working? No. No. Do we need to turn it on?
Let's see. Technology. Yes, there's a button. So
There's a button. All right.
Yep.
All right. Is it working now?
Yes.
Okay. My title has also changed.
Oh,
I was the program manager, and now I am the stewardship manager. So I'm the botanist and stewardship manager for the Keweenaw Land Trust. And our mission statement is to be a community partner, protecting land and water and quality of life. And I view that quality of life to be all of the organisms that live on our land, as well as the quality of life of our community members, by conservation, stewardship, and here's another little edit. We used to say education, and we took that out, and instead we put in nature connections, because education can be a part of nature connection, but just getting out in nature and connecting to it can be a very multi-leveled form of education, and we can have formal education or like outreach as part of that as well. So we have been working with tech in many capacities for many years. I've given guest lectures in biological sciences, as well as many of the classes in the School of Forestry. We worked together to make a class called The Psychology of Nature with Sam Smith, who was here. That was a very fun class. We love Make a Difference Day, just putting that out there. We don't ever want that to go away. And we've worked with many clubs that have reached out to us. The Outdoor Venture Club has asked us to help us with things, the Wetland Club, some forestry clubs, and also the Society for Environmental Engineers has helped us put back a bridge that got washed away with the Father's Day flood. So we love these connections. We like to we feel it's our responsibility to help steward the next generation of people who care for the environment. And so we are happy to make those connections to do that.
I'm Melissa Mackey. I'm Vice President and co-founder of 31 Backpacks. We provide food and personal hygiene products for at-risk kids in Keweenaw, Houghton, and Baraga counties. We'll be celebrating our 13th anniversary next month. We started with 31 kids in one school district. Had I known it was going to reach about 350 kids weekly, probably never would have happened. And if we just started adding one school district at a time until we finally covered the entire Copper Country Intermediate School District, which was adding Baraga and Lance as our last two to complete that. Without the connections that we've had here at Michigan Tech, I can tell you again, we would be a failure because of the amount of products and services that we provide for the amount of children that we provide to. It's a tremendous thing. We are the largest backpack program in the state of Michigan. We also do the largest draw on Feeding America. That's where we buy our products from. So some of the things we have done with people from campus. Years ago, we had a group come in and study our process and streamline it for us and said, you know, this would work better if you turn the shelves this way and if you packed it that way and that sort of thing. That was pretty cool. We've had a group put together our bookkeeping system. We had a class that they competed to design our website. We have had all kinds of fraternities and sororities come out and help us with our weekly pack and our big pack. And I know Cassandra was our speaker at my Rotary Club on Monday, and you know, part of the concern was about the what this is going to do to community partners trying to come up with things to do or that are available for students to participate in. And I can tell you that my program is one of the ones that no problem, hands down. You want to send me 40 people, that's great. Just let me know in advance so I have enough stuff to do. But again, we could not do this without the help of the university and the students and staff that are here.
Oh, here, I think I've got one here. Oh, thank you. Hopefully it's on. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? So my name is Megan Jazak. I am a registered dietitian by training, and then as Cassandra mentioned, I am a community health educator at Copper Shores Community Health Foundation. At our core, our mission at the foundation is really to try and make our community the most healthful, and that includes a lot of different facets. So we're a little bit non-traditional in that we are a funder, so we fund grants, and that is one way that we do work with Tech. We have scholarships through Tech, and we've had relationships in terms of research and projects. But we also have programs, and so we are a bit of a hybrid in that sense. Typically, foundations are one or the other. And so that's really where my role comes in. I am the community nutrition kind of focus. And so I'm a little bit, I talk about being a chameleon, and I don't mean that in like a shape-shifty, like you can't trust me kind of way. What color do you need me to change to? And I'll do my best to change to that color and fit that need. And so some of the things that we do, you know, involve farm to school. We're looking at how to get that in our community. I do a lot of community education surrounding nutrition and how do we build the habits and the knowledge so that people can live healthier lives. So really looking at kind of the broad picture. In terms of, you know, how we worked with Michigan Tech, you know, we've had some research projects where we've looked at, you know, wow, there's some data that's actually missing in terms of food and nutrition and how we gather here, but it's unique to our area, and we've had some researchers that were very collaborative in addressing that need for more information. I've had student interns that were really critical. We have lots of volunteers, and that's just my department. I'm sure that I'm missing a whole slew, but I'm very excited to chat and learn more about what you guys want to hear and how we can make this a good experience for everyone.
Hello, everybody. My name is Austin Ayers. As Cassandra said, I am the outreach coordinator for the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community Natural Resource Department. I'm also an elected official for the Keweenaw Bay Indian community. I'd like to just make a disclaimer that everything I say today is my personal opinion or reflects the values of the Natural Resource Department itself. I'm not speaking on behalf of the tribe or the tribal council today. We've done quite a bit of work with Michigan Tech over the past few years. One of the things I specifically can think of that I'd really like to mention is Cassandra's work on wild rice and the contaminants that are in the rice themselves and what that means for us as it relates to nutrition and our traditional values of getting back to harvesting off the landscape. We've done all kinds of food-related studies, especially with the fish contamination, the impacts to Buffalo Reef and the surrounding areas. If you've ever seen our Sand Point project, Michigan Tech has played a large role in that as well. It's a very important relationship, and even outside of the research aspect, we do employ quite a few interns from Michigan Tech, and we have over the years. I think right now we only have one, maybe. So, but it's a great relationship, and looking forward to developing it for the betterment of the community. Michigan Tech's really offered an insight into Western science and different data collection and different expertise development for the tribe that we didn't necessarily know we were lacking at the time, but it's really opened the door for us to say, this is what we need, and this is how we should be developing these professionals. So it's been extremely beneficial relationship with Michigan Tech. So.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. So my name is Rachel Presley. I work now as the planning director for the Western UP Planning and Development Region. We are a regional government agency that provides support to over 70 local units of government, as well as nonprofits and residents and grassroots organizations. Most of my work over the last 7 years that I've worked at Wupperter has been with environmental resilience and climate and food systems and regional collaboration. And in all of these aspects, I have partnered, and Wupperter has partnered with Michigan Tech on starting an internship program, on projects, and also on research. And we also actively go after collaborative grant funding together. So that's me.
Hi, I'm Beth Squires. I am a middle and high school science teacher in Chassel. And I've worked with a lot of different people at Michigan Tech. Dr. Erica Hirsch-Green, we've worked on a biodiversity project for a couple years, which ties in with curriculum I'm doing, but my high school students got to go out to her actual research site and do real science, so that was very exciting. We have students from Michigan Tech come for lots of different things. I wrote down a few. So we've had the engineering ambassadors come and teach different projects to the students. We've had students come and help with our robotics program to, add a higher level of expertise to that. We've had music students come and work with band students. We've sent students to different programs with the health sciences classes here. So I mostly do science stuff. But the school's open to anything. We can work a lot into our curriculum, and the students love it. It's really important for them to work with different people in the community and to have different opportunities than they would just inside of the classroom. So lots at Tech, but I've also, we're talking about community. I've worked with Austin and I've worked with Rachel, and sometimes we have one project and we tie in lots of people to work together.
Great. Thank you, Beth. That's actually a really fantastic tie into our next question, because we hear the term community quite a bit, or community partnerships, and we kind of want to dig into what that means. So I'm going to hand over the question to Megan and Austin of, when you hear the term community, who do you envision being included in that?
I think that's a really important question to ask. I guess what I would say to start is that community is going to look different for every person in this room. And so we can take the big picture community, right, where we live. And then there's kind of your smaller community who you might have higher touch points with. And so I'm choosing to look at that in the context of today's conversation, more of who am I going to have a higher touch point with as my community that I think we can share and talk more about. And I think the big thing is, when we ask who, keep asking that. Who am I missing? As you keep thinking, let's say I'm going to take my farm to school path as an example. Well, first I would say kids, right? That's why I'm doing this work, is to work with kids. But who else is in the room? Who else do I need to be thinking about? Well, there's the teachers. There's the administration staff. Maybe there's food service, including the directors and then the staff on the lunch line. What about the janitor? What about maintenance? All these people that we forget. And so that's one of the most critical things. And regardless of, what community I might be focusing on, whether it's a community event where I'm just looking at the broad public and I want to share a message, who might I be missing? who am I not inviting to the table? So I would almost say, I'm almost flipping the question of not who should be invited, but who am I missing and how can I make sure that I am thinking about that and constantly reflecting on that piece.
Yeah.
At the Natural Resource Department, we have this teaching that we try to instill in everybody right when they start, that you work for everyone. And when we say everyone, you work for the plants, you work for the animals, you work for the water, you work for the dirt, you work for the earth. And so when I think of community, I think of community as encompassing that whole thing, not just people. And even outside of that, I think a lot of people misunderstand that a tribe is a political affiliation. It has nothing to do with like DEI. So when you think of a tribe, we're much bigger than just indigenous people or non-indigenous people. You know, we're everybody that works for us. We're all the descendants. We're all the family members of tribal members. We're anybody in that scope of area where we can provide services. So at the Natural Resource Department, we do like a lot of fish stocking. So we raise a lot of fish and we re-release them. And so we don't do that necessarily just for tribal members to practice their treaty rights. We do it because there's a need not only in our area, but for the greater area of commercial fishing, taking fish out and replacing those. So we try to focus on that as well. But we do a lot of raising of brook trout. And then there's, you know, traditional harvest of brook trout, but it wasn't necessarily a focal species for us. So when you think about brook trout, it's really for the sport fishermen that come to the area. And it's a way for us to say, hey, state of Michigan, we want to help boost the economy for you as well. So community is, like you said, it's different for everybody, but in our eyes, it's every single person, every living being, and everything to us has a spirit, so consider everything living. So just having that respect, and like I mentioned, our previous research with Michigan Tech, a lot of that's tied to giving a voice to these species that can't communicate with us in the same way that we communicate with each other. So like the rice, you know, we want to know, like, is the rice sick, and why is it sick, and what can we do to help it not be sick? Same thing with the deer, and same thing with the bugs. A lot of our work at Sand Point now has been focused on the monodouche eggs, or the little spirits is what we call them. The bugs we call little spirits, and I think like that's part of the community as well. It's everything. So we really try to emphasize that to all employees, but also when we do these kind of things. So
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a really important note of if thinking of, as you know, Michigan Tech, or even someone who's seeking out a partnership with a community partner, is asking those questions of who is your community, who are you making sure to include, or who is often forgotten in this work. Is I think that digs into those deeper questions, and it really gets into the question of values, right? Of who are we valuing, what are we trying to make sure we include and teach our students as we work on this project together. So thank you. So the next question, I'm gonna have Rachel, Beth, and Melissa answer. If an educator or a researcher at Michigan Tech desires a partnership with your organization, what are some of the first steps that they should take, that they need to take?
Okay, I wanted to get this right, so I took little notes. So the best first step is to contact Wupperter early with a clear idea of your goals, and then also coming with the flexibility around how we might align those goals with community priorities. And then we would like schedule that and meet in person. And then we would discuss our shared interests, our values, and then how much capacity we both have. And then we would set that relationship building up for a strong foundation so that we can work together in the future. So just start by emailing me.
So a couple of the more recent projects that we've done on campus and with some of the students, one, I was a speaker at a class regarding sustainability, and I thought, what the heck is this? I mean, we recycle, but how am I going to make this into an hour-long thing? And so I actually had to sit down with the instructor about what sustainability was in his eyes, and it was not at all what I was thinking. It was about the sustainability of human beings. going forward and changing lives and improving them and that sort of thing. And I was like, well, there we go. There's a program. So we had that one-on-one contact. We just had like a little coffee thing that we discussed what it was that we were going to do. I also joined a class, a creative writing class here on campus that I attended a couple times, and they wrote some grants. And again, that instructor, we had a little sit down and discuss what the goals were. So we're very open to that sort of thing, and trying to work together with you to come up with, collaborate on what it is that you need, and then how that's going to help us also. And again, emailing us is a great way to contact, text, Facebook Messenger, all that kind of stuff. Myself and my mother, who's the other co-founder, we do work full-time jobs outside of 31 Backpacks. This is a non-paying position for us, so just keep that in mind and have a little patience when you're reaching out. I do have, if anybody wants it, I have cards with their contact information on it.
All right. Well, I think they covered most of what I was going to say, but I guess I just wanted to add, as an educator, like Rachel said, just opening that line of communication and working towards, goals that will benefit everybody. Schools can be a little bit more difficult, I think, with flexibility. We're fairly flexible, but we have school schedules. And we might have to change things. I think the first year I worked with Dr. Erica Hirsch-Green, we had the students, we planned to go out to the field site in the spring, and it was really cold, and the research had to do with insects and biodiversity, and there weren't a lot of insects at the end of the school year that year. So we did it again the next year, and we did it in the fall. So just, working together to be flexible and, make sure that, our goals are reached.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think that the key points of reaching out early, right, making that in-person connection, right, actually sitting down with someone, especially in our small community like this, it really goes a long way. Being really mindful of capacity and the differing timelines that I'm hearing, right, is that it's different from the academic year here at our university. A lot of folks are off in the summer, but a lot of the work of our community partners is ramping up in the summer. So I think, how can we be mindful of different capacity throughout the year? And something that Melissa brought up that has come up in quite a few focus groups is that many of our nonprofits and community partners are completely volunteer run. So, or mostly volunteer run. So really thinking about, as you're reaching out to our partners, being mindful of this might not be a paid position. They might not have a volunteer coordinator. So really thinking of making the most use out of those times that you're setting up those meetings. So the next question is, and I'll have Jill, Megan, and Beth answer, what primary elements of partnership have provided the most benefits to your organization? So how's your organization benefited? Jill, do you want to start?
For us, we try to do a lot of outreach to get our name out there, and a lot of people have lived here for a very long time and still don't know about the Keweenaw Land Trust. And so one of the very fun things that we've done with tech groups in the past is to have them help us jointly run outreach events, which involves a whole lot of skills, right? In organizing and preparing and coming up with a fun idea. So that's been very great. That's a win-win, easy, hands down. And then it's also great to combine stewardship with these outreach events so that we can teach the students and they can teach the rest of the community something about the ecology and some aspects of the environment, as well as having fun outside. The psychology of nature class was one good example of that. We had the students do these, they helped us with a family fun day at Marzin. They just did an they knocked it out of the park. And that's something that we don't have the staff capacity to do, but we certainly had worked with them to use our years of experience in putting these things on to help them have a successful event. That about covers it.
I think one of the things that jumps out for me is the different perspectives you get through partnership. I think you get a lot of valuable insight and feedback, and you might rework how you might have originally thought you were going to go about something the more partners you have involved. And that can be tricky sometimes if you have differing ideas. But ultimately, I think it makes the program and the work and the collective community stronger because of it. So that's what I would say is the most beneficial the most benefit that I've seen.
So I think most importantly, it's really, one of the biggest benefits is the experience that the students get. And it's not necessarily just, the experience that, 1 hour, that one day or multiple days, but it opens their eyes to new possibilities. I've had students, who've worked with different people at Tech or different community partners, and I think at some point it changed their lives. I've had students that are like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing I could go into. And now I'm, I had a student last year, I'm going to Michigan Tech and I'm going to study forestry. And I don't know that she would have necessarily followed that path without the experiences that she had. Another benefit just as a school is funding. So I work with the Lake Superior Stewardship a lot. There's some things, that I wouldn't be able to do if it weren't for community partnerships. And the Lake Superior Stewardship, I write grants, and they help to provide funding and also make connections with different community partners. When I've worked with different organizations at Tech, sometimes they provide, like a transportation stipend. So if I'm taking students, to a different location, just having that little bit of a reimbursement helps our school to be able to do more things like that. I think that's about it. So yeah, really the experiences for the students and just making it so that our students can have.
Definitely. Thank you. So the next question I'm going to have Austin, Jill, and Melissa answer. In your experience, what challenges have encountered? So we talked about benefits, but what are some of the common challenges that you've encountered in community and university partnerships? And maybe how have you overcome them or thought of ways to overcome them?
Sure. At least for the Natural Resource Department, some of it was cultural, just the lack of understanding of certain perspectives, and then how that translates into how you do your work or how you approach certain situations. I think that was a hurdle that we had to get over. I think it's been crossed a long time ago with Michigan Tech. There's little things here and there because everybody's unique, and within your own community as well, they have their own understanding and opinion about how those things should be done as well. So it comes up once in a while, but outside of that, just some logistics thing, like personnel, having the right staff, having enough staff. Some of those problems are solved though through the partnerships. And like I talked about, developing that expertise. A lot of times when we're lacking that expertise, just reaching out to a partner, you can help solve that right away. So, or they can help you get the connection to reach out to somebody else.
I can tell you that as far as our recipients go, one of our biggest challenges, and it's a challenge with almost every nonprofit that you can talk to, is transportation, people getting to the thing that they need the most. So that's number one, and that's something that we are always talking about, and there has never been like a great solution for that. So we'll continue on doing that, but we have made some adjustments to the way that we operate based on that transportation issue. We do what the media has called the big pack for winter break and spring break. So it's usually a 9 to 16 day break that the kids are away from their food source at school. And we do fill that gap, and I think we're probably the only backpack program in the United States that actually does something on the scale that we do for those long breaks. We started off with having, the parents or guardians or whatever needed to come and pick up the food. Well, that was a big failure, transportation. Then we moved it into 3 different locations for pickup geographically. That again, less than 50% of the parents were able to pick up that food. So we did switch into a program where we do our big pack at Glad Tidings, where we operate in Hancock, and then we have after the big pack, which is usually Monday night, Tuesday morning, we have all the schools send the buses. We call it the bus pickups, and so the schools come and pick up these. It's usually 900 to 2,000 bags, and I'm talking kitchen-sized bags of food that need to be distributed for these breaks. So the schools take them back to their school districts and distribute it from there. So now we're like kind of in a micro geographical situation rather than the way it was. And that's one of the obstacles that we've had to look at and try to address. And could it be better? Yes, it could. Do we operate during the summer? No, we don't. Why is that? Transportation. And also the kids are, collectively at school during the school year. Like a lot of people that you're going to talk about, community partners, a lot of them are really busy during the summer season. That's when we're on hiatus, so to speak. We're the complete opposite, which is nice, and that also coincides with my job, thank goodness. So busy year-round. But we do not have the capacity, neither monetarily or with volunteers, to do a 7-day-a-week deliver to the homes kind of program. So that's another challenge that people ask us about all the time. And what are we going to do? I don't know. It's something else that we really would like to be able to address and just can't at this time.
One of the challenges that we have faced, especially in working with students groups, is that they're busy and they're chaotic in their groups, and so having a contact person is really important. And I mean that in both directions too, because when you email the Keweenaw Land Trust, a lot of times it goes to info@KeweenawLandTrust.org, and that goes to all of us. And various members of our staff could be answering that, and then we might discuss it, and then one person gets back to you. And so it's good on our end to make it a point person that you're talking to, and it's good on the student's part to make it a point person. And if a club is setting up kind of a cool multi-year project where they want to do some restoration work and see how that goes on into the future, then I think it may be up to us to remind them to introduce us to the next person who's in charge of the group the following year, so that we can continue the education too, right? Like, this is what the first year group did, this is the second year, this is what you're going to do. Let's keep it going in that way. So those contact people on both ends are really important.
So I have one more question prepared for them, and then I'll open it up to everyone here to ask some questions as well. So actually, I'd like to hear from all of you for this last question. Based on your experiences with working with partners, can you please share one take-home message for educators and researchers that are thinking about partnering with your organization?
Just go this way?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we do love to work with our community partners. As I said, it's right in the start of our mission statement. But when you ask us to take time out of what we would have been doing, that is something to consider. And one, it isn't really transactional as much as respectful. If you can make sure that our name is mentioned and that our logo is used, we should probably just give you our logo right away so it can go on anything. That community, our outreach to the whole community through those points are really important to us, and they help us justify taking the time away from what we would have been doing to help you do whatever project you're going to be doing.
So I've been sitting here trying to think about what I was going to say about this. My organization, I think, is pretty darn easy to work with as far as setting something up. We can accommodate, larger groups, and we had talked with Cassandra at the Rotary meeting on Monday, groups of like 15 to 40 people, and that's great. What I do need from you is I need a heads up that 40 people are coming, and the sooner the better, so that I have enough things planned for everybody, because there's nothing worse than a volunteer that has nothing to do, because then they don't come back. So we appreciate that. Again, communication early, and let us know what to expect, so we're not like blindsided by what's coming in. But we've always been able to find work for people to do and accommodate larger groups.
I don't know where this quote came from, but someone shared with me that clarity is kindness. And I think that is the number one thing that I would want as a take home on both ends. As an organization, we need to be clear about kind of what Rachel was mentioning earlier, what kind of priorities we have, where we might see a good fit. And I think the more prepared the instructor or that educational group is coming in, stating what they're looking for, then you can make sure there's a good match on both ends. I think that's what we all want out of this outcome, is for the students to have a meaningful experience and for the organization to also have gotten something meaningful on their end. And I think the more you can think about those questions, and kind of piggybacking off of what Jill said, before you meet with the organization, and even if it's a quick email saying, hey, we'd like to meet this, we're going to think about what we need on our end, can you come prepared with what you are specifically looking for? That's going to provide a clear path forward.
Can I hear the question again?
What's a take-home message that you'd want to share with everyone?
If you plan to partner with the Natural Resource Department, just know that we don't operate necessarily the same as you. We run on Indian time. That's the joke. We don't follow the clock. We do 8 to 4:30 every day, but we operate in our own way and we move at our own pace. And we have our own ideas, and if you want to come work with us, it's best not to really try to clash with those ideas or our perspectives, because again, this is our home, this is our lands, and if you're coming to the res, it's our rules, so.
Okay, so for me, key takeaways for working with Whoopiter, or From the Ground Farmers Market Collective, or the Portage Lake Seed Library, is that this is a mutual benefit. And I think setting that up and understanding how we'll have shared benefit together, I think is key, and probably going to be one of our first or second conversations, just kind of like what you said, Megan.
All right, yes, I agree with that. The mutual benefit, I think, is very important. As a teacher, I think everybody, has this, picture in their head of what teachers do all day. Some teachers don't like to work outside of their, normal hours. I'm not one of those. I would rather, if it was something you wanted to do, like, I just need, some planning time and some mornings. So, like, I will answer emails in the summer. It's easier for me to, like, work on things over time. If you ask me, like, hey, can you do this next week? I might be able to make it work, but that would be, like, way harder for me. So just, yeah, lots of time to figure things out and how that would work with the school.
Thanks, everybody. So now I want to open it up to folks we have in the crowd, and so we can ask some questions, and our panelists can answer them. And also, I see quite a few community partners in the crowd as well. So if anyone wants to chime in, feel free. Yeah, great.
My name is Nilofer Onder. I'm from the computer science department. I've been at Tech quarter of a century plus 1 year, 6 years. I attended the last session, which was talking about the character traits, strengths, and needs of our students. Would you please share your perspectives of the character, strengths, and traits of our students, please?
Something I've always noticed about the Michigan Tech interns and then the graduates that come to work with us full time is that they are some of the most committed individuals you'll ever come across in the profession, at least in natural resource management. They're very detail oriented, and that commitment that they have really drives their goals and their passions, and I feel like it produces a lot of results for the department. And they also bring in a new perspective of how science changes every day. And every year we get a new graduate, or every year we get a new intern, it shows. And so I put a lot of faith in the Michigan Tech students and graduates that come to work for us.
I would actually almost like to pose this more, to flip it on some of the partners, in the sense that some of the tech students that I have worked with are very quiet at the beginning. But if you ask them meaningful questions and give them the time to answer that, there was one position where we had planned to hire one intern, and because of this one question in our interview, which was, what was the thing that you're most proud of accomplishing? We hired two, because this individual was so quiet and reserved. We were like, I don't know if they're going to be the right fit in this role, and that answer completely changed the trajectory of how we viewed that individual. So I don't know if that's quite answering your question, but I do think, there is a certain population where they might not always be very outwardly people-oriented, but if you take the time to let them warm up and ask questions that are meaningful, you might also get to see a side of them that you might have missed if you weren't willing to ask the question.
I'll add too that they are just so enthusiastic and energetic, and that is really fun to work with. It gives us energy to help them too.
One of the things that we always talk about with 31 Backpacks is the pendulum between empathy and apathy. And unfortunately, in this country right now, that pendulum has swung quite a bit in the direction of apathy, which is not good for nonprofits. What I do see with Michigan Tech students is more on that empathetic side of things, which is, thank goodness. The other thing that, well, there's a couple of things that I see with the students that come and help us out. It's a fresh perspective. We're used to doing the same thing the same way all the time. And, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And every once in a while, some like great little thing comes out of somebody coming to help us out. You know, what if you did this, you know, and all of a sudden we've streamlined a little bit more. The other thing that I see quite a bit of is leadership. Coming out of the students. You know, there's people that come in and take charge. You can tell who they are when the minute they walk in the room. I love seeing that, and when they tell me they're graduating, I'm like, don't leave me. You're taking a job here, right? Correct? Yeah, so I see a lot of that too, and that we really enjoy seeing people grow in that way.
So I've been involved with community partners on the research side for like 1 or 2 students involved with community partners. But my question is, do you see any room for involving like a large class in the community partnership? Like a class, you know, 40 to 120 students?
Here you go. I'm good at fielding a lot. We do a lot of work with Michigan Tech, so it's really easy to answer these questions. But 40 to 120 people, I can think of a lot of labor that can get done with 40 to 120 people. So I'd start there. But as far as maybe providing a different avenue of education for them and offering a unique experience, we do tours. We do different lectures. We have a variety of expertise at the department that are willing to offer those things. And if you're interested, you can reach out to me. I'll provide my contact info, and I think it's available through you guys. Yeah. So anything you want to set up related to that, if you want to see where we do rice, if you want to see how we do rice, if you want to participate in those kind of things, I'm sure we could set something up. Obviously, we do a little bit of liability work, so we'd ask for waivers and such. So.
We are in the process of hiring a new person. Our job application closes tomorrow for the outreach and volunteer coordinator. And that's a great question for that person. So ask us next year. But as far as like, I've given a lot of guest lectures in your class even, and I'm happy to do that. And I'm happy to do these like career pathways, you know, because mine's real zigzaggy, and I never would have guessed that I would end up where I am now. And I think that can be helpful to students to realize that there's opportunities that come up that you never planned on, but they were, you know, I'm sure there's this card. I'm sure there's a lot of things on this card that we've all experienced in our career paths that we can share with students. So we're always happy to do that kind of one and done thing. The bigger course would have to go to the next person.
Just brainstorming here, but I think we could, you know, figure out things to do with a larger group of students. I'm just thinking like, you know, designing different projects with the students and then having smaller groups out and maybe work with some different lessons, or, you know, maybe not all at once because we're small and we'd disappear if we had 120 Michigan Tech students come all at once. But I think, you know, over time, you know, if there's a lot of planning and work on the students' parts and then smaller groups come at different times to work with them, I can see that happening.
Yeah, I think to summarize some of the ideas for that, we're doing things like if there's a lot of field work, those are really great opportunities for large course sizes. Doing class visits, or community partners, inviting community partners to the class. And then also breaking down projects into smaller groups where maybe students can work on a remote project and then connect with community partners at the end. I think we have time for one more question. Anyone have a?
So our office at Michigan Tech is focused on community engagement. And one of the things that we're going to be working on is the Carnegie classification for community engagement in a couple of years. One of the things that they talk about that's really an important value is the concept, and it's already been talked about a little bit, but I'd like to maybe hear a little bit more about reciprocity. And that concept, is that, Michigan Tech and Michigan Tech students, faculty, staff, and that are working with community organizations, that they're sort of co-creators of knowledge, co-creators of practice, etc., as opposed to, somebody coming in, well, I'm the expert, and, we've heard some of this already, and, there's all kinds of knowledges, indigenous knowledge, scientific knowledge, and I'd just like to hear a little bit more about your concept of reciprocity, how that works itself out in your organization, and how we can make sure that that value is instilled in our work with our community partners.
Go, Austin.
Well, recently we signed an agreement with Michigan Tech about the kind of research that's done on the reservation and how that should be handled. And it came up just over certain concerns, but in the past, like I've talked about Cassandra, I'm just going to keep highlighting your project, I'm sorry, but that work to be able to quantify different things and to say, well, this is the perspective that I'm seeing, and adding that to the perspective that we already have, that's the reciprocity right there. To be able to look at the landscape. For us, we're the stewards, right? We have this thing called the First Treaty, and it's the agreement we made with Creator, or with God, to say that we're going to take care of all this stuff, and we understand we're the lowliest of creatures, so we're going to do all this work. That reciprocity comes when other people feel and think the same way. When they want to be engaged with the environment, with the greater community in the same way, that's the reciprocity. Because it's not only to us as people, but to everyone. Like that whole community I'm talking about, you have to be able to have that exchange with the whole community. So, if you're going to come to do work with us, you're coming to do work with everyone. And as long as you're feeling and thinking and acting in that same way, if you're walking the walk and talking the talk, that's reciprocity to me. So, yeah.
I'm going to be willing to talk about a mistake and learning from mistakes. Sometimes we all get so busy that we kind of forget to keep track of where we are in these communications. And so a student group needed to do their practicum, and they asked to do it on our land, and we shared data on our shapefiles and all that. They did the work, and then I think they invited one person from our organization to come see the work, and that person didn't realize it didn't go around to all of us. So we didn't go to their presentation, and I feel terrible about that, because that would have been that's a respectful thing to do if they've done this work on our land, whether we agree with the outcome or not, right? But to see what they produced is valuable and would have given them the respect that they deserve. So I feel bad about that. We were not contacted we have not been given a report of their work, which would be respectful to us, for them to make sure that we learned what they learned on our land. So those were just some communication fall downs that shouldn't have happened on both sides of that equation. And so let's do better.
One of the things that I think about, and I'm certainly no expert in this, but in the conversations I've had centered around reciprocity, there's this abundance mindset. And I think when you apply that, it would be kind of, as Austin has talked about, a shared mindset of what can I give to this? And I think the more that you can operate under that type of mindset, in, again, both ways within the partnership, that's how I view reciprocity being implemented.
I'll add to that a little bit. I often mention my favorite radio station, or the favorite radio station to most people, WIIFM, is what's in it for me. So a lot of times when addressing a crowd, I have to like kind of gauge what it is that this group of people, you know, needs to get out of the situation, and that may change the way that I talk about different things because people have different things that they're after you know, as far as participating. If it's not, and Mary over here is in my Rotary Club with me, Hancock Rotary Club, and we talk about the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and build better friendships? And lastly, will it be beneficial to all concerned? If it's not beneficial to all concerned, I kind of think it's like a fail. You're not going to get those people to re-engage if it's not beneficial to both parties.
Great. Well, thank you. I think that is time. So let's give a huge round of applause to our panelists. Thank you. And I will, I'll make sure I have permission from everyone, but maybe share contact information with folks afterwards that we'll share those resources back with everyone. So enjoy.